What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another Angle of Pursuit podcast, your fantasy football, DFS, and sports betting home over on fakepigskin.com. It's Thursday. That means it's time for me and the real Bobby Adcock to talk some DraftKings, talk some DFS, and get you set for this weekend. How's it going, Bobby?
Well, Kyle, it's okay. I do have some immediate business to discuss here.
Oh, yeah.
Thursday Night Football is kicking off very soon.
Uh-huh.
And I need you to tell me if I'm insane. I right now in a season-long league, I have placed Andrew Luck on the bench, and there is Bobby Blake Bortles available to pick up and Derek Carr. So am I correct in just saying I'm going to sit him out and I'm going to pick up one of these two guys come the weekend? Is it the right move? Am I okay in doing this?
For me, that is the correct move. And
Okay.
if you want to and if you're curious about how I rank quarterbacks, you can head to fakepigskin.com right now, because each and every week I will be putting my quarterback rankings up there. And Andrew Luck is a guy, and I think this is a good jumping off point. Obviously, we're recording this on a Thursday, so this could look really stupid, and he could throw for 400 yards. But his average, his yards per target right now, or his yards per attempt rather, is like 6 yards. And like the only people that have a lower YPA than Andrew Luck is Nick Foles, who been benched, Tyrod Taylor, who got hurt and was now benched for Baker, and Sam Bradford, who got benched for Josh Rosen. So like there's serious concern. And I was actually, it kind of snuck through the news dump, but basically there was a report that came out that when Andrew Luck, remember how last year we expected him and then all of a sudden he missed the rest of the season? There's a report that came out that basically he went snowboarding and re-injured his shoulder, and that's why we didn't see him at all last year. So I don't know if it's going to take time. I don't know if it's just not coming back, but the arm strength is clearly an issue. For me, I have him as a top 15 play this week. I think the Patriots put it on him tonight, and obviously that'll force Luck to throw a little bit more. But Blake Bortles, who we're going to talk a lot about tonight because I'm very excited about him, is inside my top 10 at the position.
Okay.
Derek Carr is a close one for me. He's just outside. I've Luck 15 and Carr 17. But I mean, like, I would not fault you. That's a beautiful matchup, and I will be playing some Derek Carr and DFS this week as well. So, but yeah, no, if you played Blake Bortles and you sat Andrew Luck, I would not bat an eye at that. Just crazy
Okay.
to say.
Okay, it's a season-long league, and I do like Luck,
Mm-hmm.
but I think right now I had a little, especially with T.Y. Hill once he was
Mm-hmm.
rolled out. I thought,
Yeah, like that
you know
that
what?
offense is just like the whole team's a mess. I think like 10 or 12 of their starters are out tonight, and like they're just missing pieces on the offensive line. T.Y. Hilton's out. The defense is a mess. I have a hard time envisioning him having a very good game. I picture a lot of Eric Ebron, a lot of Naheem Hines, and kind of a Patriots 41 to 14 type game. Uh, Brady, I think, needs 3 passing touchdowns to eclipse 500, and he is not a fan of the Colts. He's had a lot of history, obviously, with Irsay and that team. So I think he has a special place. And Julian Edelman's back. And, I saw a stat right before we started recording this. This is the first game since 2016 that Tom Brady, Julian Edelman, and Rob Gronkowski all were on the field at the same time since November of 2016.
Wow, that is a little bit wild to hear. Yes.
Yeah. So it's pretty insane. And they were showing basically Brady's numbers with Gronk and Edelman. 69, very nice completion percentage. His YPA goes from 7.4 to 8.8. His touchdown to interception ratio goes from 4.3 to 9. And his QBR goes from 68 to 84 with both those guys in the field. So I expect a big game from Brady. I expect him to get the record, and I expect that game to be ugly.
And now Josh Gordon.
Yeah.
And also, what's the over/under on the term PSI on the broadcast tonight? Six and a half, maybe six.
Yeah. I might go slightly under, but yeah, it's gonna be right there. That we'll definitely get a lot of allusions to that and to Deflategate and all that good stuff. Um, Speaking of things that are not going to be pretty, I want to talk about cash lines because um, we started a little bit of a conversation kind of coming in, but it really seems like this season you have to be at least high 190s to 200s to be in a reasonable kind of comfort zone of cashing. And even last week that wasn't quite enough in double ups and some of the GPPs and whatnot. So and we kind of look at betting and the over unders, and we'll obviously do our betting show in a little bit, but I think Vegas is saying they expect more points to be scored, which means as a community, as a DFS player, you have to expect to score more points, or else you're not going to be able to cash with any sort of consistency.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, for the most part, my goal is try to get like to 200. I try to set a lineup where I legitimately, reasonably believe I can get to 200 with my lineup.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. I mean, it's almost like as if you weren't in on Kansas City or the Rams the first 3 weeks in those 1 o'clock slates, you're really not going to cash. And if you weren't in on maybe Atlanta, Cincinnati this past week, you're going to probably miss out. And they're all these games. We talked about or mentioned the Browns and the Raiders being really high scoring. So it's just a trend now where all these games, the over-unders you talked about, so many more games in the mid-50s now as opposed to the mid-40s.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, it just makes the supply of the points on fantasy go much higher. And, yes, you're going to – in general, I would just say one of your slots, maybe outside of defense, you just can't have a miss in your lineup.
Mm-hmm. And a miss might be like less than double digits in points. Like you need guys to go off, and you need and you could and I had Tyler Boyd, I had Sterling Shepard, I had some nice pieces last week, and it's still in some leagues, in some lineups, wasn't quite enough, and so it's definitely something that you want to make sure that when you're setting lineups this week and going forward that you're shooting for the stars, obviously, but you want to have those guys that are going to get you 30 points, 20 points, whatever it is, and you kind of do the math, and it's really good to kind of use projections or use like the anticipated points off of DraftKings and go, okay, is this going to get me where I need to go? Obviously, if you're in a GPP, you want to shoot a little higher and go with a little more upside, but you need to make sure that these guys are going to score for you. So with that in mind, let's look at our potential lineups and our favorite plays for the week. And we'll start at the quarterback position, and we'll start with my boy Blake Bortles because I am all in. I'm going to have him in a ton of lineups, obviously GPP, but also, cash. I love him this week. At 5,500 against this Kansas City defense, no Leonard Fournette only helps his, the coaching staff's willingness to throw the ball. Another pass catcher out of the backfield with TJ Yeldon. I'm all aboard the Bortles train this week, and I expect him to go off.
Yeah, I think in general, I think this is a great week where we see a lot of value in Jaguars offenses and in Cleveland offenses.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the switch at quarterback in Cleveland now. You can see that a lot of players like even like Rashad Higgins and Duke Johnson now, these guys might be a lot more viable week to week than they have been, and their prices are very low. So these offenses as a whole are undervalued. You're seeing guys in the mid, 4,000s or 5,000s you say, okay, you look at a guy say like TJ Yeldon, and we'll talk about more about him, but you see a guy like him and you say, okay, this is a great week, especially against the matchup with Kansas City. So great week for Jaguars players, and then yes, the Browns as well, just having the upgrade with Mayfield around them. So I like the Bortles play a lot. I just told you I'm basically benching Luck for the guy.
Mm-hmm.
So Bobby Blake Bortles, I'm there with you. I believe, especially this week.
Are you stacking any specific players with him, or are you gonna kind of let him roll out by himself, or what's your plan to deploy him this week?
Well, I would play him. I think he's a fine solo play.
Yeah.
I don't think, but I don't mind like another thing too is like as far as stacks go and trying to like dominate one matchup in on these DraftKings lineups. Jacksonville's not a bad play. They're affordable, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you can stack like a Bortles and a DD Westbrook. I think he's around 4,700 this week. Is that correct? I think
Let me
that's.
look. Yeah, he's 4,700, right on the dot. Look at that.
I mean, like those are very affordable stacks where you can get production, and you can go out and still those are under the average price per player. Where you can go out and get you can get the higher price guys that we all want. So
Yeah.
I would say Didi's a great one. I don't mind really stacking any of those guys. No, I don't think is there a tight end in Jacksonville? Does the one exist?
I think ASJ was supposed to be that guy, but it really hasn't come to fruition yet. He's getting a little bit of work, and maybe he sees a little more work this week. But yeah, I mean, 5 targets. He's basically got 5 targets every week, except for last week when he got 4. So he's gotten a handful of targets, not doing a whole lot with it. Obviously, the potential's there for him to have a nice game, but he's probably not somebody I'm deploying as of now. If you're not doing Bortles, are we going right to Derek Carr?
Yeah, I do like Derek Carr. I like this matchup. We talked about a lot of people talk about the San Diego defense, and obviously they've proven through 4 games without their best player in Bosa, and just some other holes where there's inexperience and rookies along the linebacking core. It's just they've been very average to below average. I mean, it's one thing when they faced Kansas City and the Rams, so that does skew a little bit. But I mean, last week against the Niners, right? Like they still are just kind of in a lot of ways they're certainly not a dominant group or a very good group. They're average. So I like Derek Carr. They've proven they're still been able to be productive. And who are we kidding? This matchup in general, this is going to be like a home game for them in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So
no.
I think he makes a great play at I believe 5,200 this week. I like Derek Carr.
Yeah, he is also on my list. I like him a lot. Now let me ask you. Obviously, Ben Roethlisberger and Matt Ryan. That matchup is so tasty for offense, for fantasy points. But they're both really expensive. You're gonna have to pay $6,900 for Roethlisberger and $6,600 for Matt Ryan. Do you see yourself playing pieces of this offense, or do you think these guys might end up in your lineup and you're willing to kind of spend the cash to get them and enjoy the ride?
Definitely, and I think like we talked about with trying to get your lineups, like you almost have to hoard these like certain games, right, to get all the points. This is that game this week for sure. So I think that I'm willing to pay the price. I think Calvin Ridley's at around 5,900. Juju's around 75. With the quarterbacks, I would prefer Ryan to Roethlisberger, just because Roethlisberger has been very turnover prone, and just can get a little few very deductions from your points there. But yeah, I mean, there's no wrong way to go here with this matchup. I don't think with everybody. It's just a matter of like, are you paying for Julio or are you fading going to Ridley, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I want to get pieces of this offense, and obviously, like if I can make it work where I can get Matt Ryan in there, because I think saving 300, you still have the same amount of upside. I expect a big game from him. But I think I'm trying to get pieces of this offense and get production, but not necessarily at the quarterback position. I think I want to save there and spend elsewhere. Is there any other quarterbacks that you're interested in this week that you want to throw out before we move on to running backs?
Maybe quickly, just like I think I this might be crazy, but um, you know, maybe Josh Rosen against the Niners. I just happen to like him in general, and I think it's such a dirt cheap price. It's like, hey, what's could he not? Is it reasonable to think he could throw for a couple hundred yards and 2 touchdowns? Sure.
I'm. It's getting a little scary, Bobby, that we're starting to agree so much. But he is absolutely on my radar. 4,700, very much in the C.J. Beathard camp as a guy. He's at home. The Niners can't have issues against the pass. I don't know that I'm necessarily like stacking him with anybody. Maybe Christian Kirk, maybe Fitzgerald finally comes to fruition. The stack I might want, and this is a good segue into running backs, is David Johnson, because David Johnson is as cheap as you're gonna get, and this is a phenomenal matchup against a Niners defense that is just not that great. David Johnson, 6,300. He's below Tevin Coleman, Devonta Freeman, who's sharing time. He's below Joe Mixon, Joe Bernard, who's sharing time. He's sharing, he's very, very affordable. And I don't want to spend up too much at running back this week. Melvin Gordon is kind of that guy for me. But if I'm kind of looking at that next tier, I think David Johnson's very much a guy that I'm interested in.
Yeah, I'm totally I'm totally fine with that, because again, this is a week where you want to go on the Cardinals, right? If there's any week, and by the way, I cannot believe that we'll get to this later. I cannot believe they're a 4-point underdog to San Francisco. I don't know how San Francisco's gonna be laying 4 points anyway. Anyway, no, I mean I love. Yeah, I think this is a week where all those guys are formidable plays in DK, and they're actually, this is 1 week kind of like a Jacksonville where they might be you can get more of return on them because of the matchup. So, and I do think Rosen in general will get better, and he's just going to be overall better for the entire offense. So yeah, I'm fine with David Johnson. I think he'll be fine.
If you're spending up at running back, is there anybody that stands out, or is this where you're looking to save money this week?
I'm always looking to save money, but I would say, in general, I think the safest guys, I think for me, who I have in a lot of season long leagues, is McCaffrey. Yeah. I think just his involvement in that offense and all the catches he gets. I mean, he's a guy who literally could get, 8 or 9 catches a week. Yeah. So, I mean, just from a statistical standpoint, it might not generate into a ton of offense, but just his floor is so high and so safe that I'm always looking to kind of get McCaffrey in the mix there.
Yep. No, I couldn't agree more. He's definitely, if I'm not doing Melvin Gordon, he's the only one, above probably 7,000 that I'm actually interested in. So if this is where you're saving money, who's your favorite kind of, give me a name or two that really pops off the page, as value plays.
Yeah, I mean, the guy that I really talked about a lot last week that I was just dead nuts on was Mike Davis. I just love him. He's one of my favorite running backs, always been. I'm just kidding, by the way. I've never thought, I don't even know who he is. And all of a sudden, the funny thing is, last week we talked about Chris Carson for like 5 minutes versus Chris Ivory. Yeah. And sudden, what was that? It was almost ridiculous.
Pete Carroll drives me crazy. It's like you build him up and everything's fine, and all of a sudden, like 5 minutes before game time, oh, actually he can't go. So Mike Davis is getting don't give it to your first round pick that has all the upside in the world. Give it to Mike fucking Davis. I like him. I liked him coming out of South Carolina, but like the dude's bounced around. He's just a guy. Like I don't understand this at all. Pete Carroll.
And then he played well.
Yeah. No, it was a very bizarre game. And go ahead.
Well, so do not play Mike Davis this week, but no. So I think a couple guys that I just they jump out. just in terms of their safety in their floor is Carlos Hyde at 5,200.
Mm-hmm.
I know Nick Chubb had a really great run last week, and they may be looking to get him more involved, possibly. But I still think, this is a team that's trying to win. They're going to go with they're still their workhorse.
Oh yeah.
There's no indication that he's safe for like 20 touches a game. They're going to try to run the ball, and he's talented. I mean, he's a talented player. So
he's getting like 70% of the workload every single week, even with Duke getting work, even with Nick Chubb getting work. He has been 70+% of the running back touches every single week. So that kind of safety is always nice from a running back.
Right, not a great matchup, but again, it's 5,200 for a guy that's getting 20 carries a game. So, and again, I think I think it's time to at least uptick most of these guys in this offense. This offense is better now. There's more upside with everyone. So I like Hyde at 5,200. Another guy that is, again, quietly that you're not going to get excited about. No one's, oh man, I can't wait to get this guy in my lineup. Marshawn Lynch. It's the same thing. I mean, he's just another guy who's getting his 20 carries a game. He's still running super hard. If you've watched him at all, there's no difference. He is beast mode still. And he's has the numbers to back it up. So at 5,500, I think in a matchup against a Charger defense, we can talk about a little bit, that is not great at all. I like a guy at 5,500 who I know has this floor and is going to get 20 carries. So I like Lynch at 5,500.
Yeah, I like that call quite a bit. And, he's only gotten better every single week this season, and he's been really good. I like Matt Breida a lot if he's healthy. Obviously, he's a little questionable right now. But Arizona's tough time stopping the run. Niners obviously at home. I said Rosen was at home, but Rosen's on the road. So I still like him. Still a good play there. But yeah, I think Matt Breida's interesting. And this is going to be a little hard to do, but I like Alex Collins this week. $5,000. Baltimore is a 3-point favorite. I know it's on the road. Browns have issues stopping the run. I think this might be the week Alex Collins kind of becomes a little bit more of what we expected coming into the season.
Well, God bless you with that call. I don't know what to say about. Look, every time I've tried to talk myself into Alex Collins, it never worked. So I'm not gonna do it. If I was in that range though, I actually kind of like guys we've talked about before. One is Kerryon Johnson at 46. I think if you're looking in that, trying to save money running back, Kerryon, I think he's on the verge of a huge game for the Lions. They've had bad game script for him pretty much in 3 out of 4 of their games. When they've had positive game script, he turned in a great performance. So even in 9 carries last week, he was very productive. So I think he is these. I mean, he may not be the starting running back on their depth chart, but he started out last week with a 32-yard run on the first play of the game. And what a lot of people thought was never going to happen was on the goal line on 1st and 8, they handed off to him, and he made a great run and ran over one of the Dallas safeties for a touchdown. So even on the goal line where they thought everyone turned to Blunt, they turned to him. So I think they're going to feature him so much as they move ahead. He's their 2nd-round pick. I think he's on the verge of a huge game. So I think 4,600, I love Kerryon again this week. And another guy in that same game who I know you like as well, you've talked about, is Aaron Jones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love Aaron Jones this week. And I was Team Jamal Williams coming in, but he absolutely is the guy. He's getting more of the workload. He's getting more productive with it. Aaron Rodgers came out in favor of him. And with, Adams potentially missing, Geronimo Allison potentially missing, Randall Cobb potentially missing, he could see a lot of work this week.
Yeah, I think there's a chance. And also because Rodgers is himself banged up, I think there's a chance because that Lions run defense is so bad, Kyle. Yep. It's unbelievably bad. I think there's a chance they go game plan, run heavy, and I think Jamal Williams has value too this
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
Maybe not long term, but I think this week both these guys have value. So
Yeah, no, I like that call quite a bit. Let's talk about TJ Yeldon because obviously, 5600, no Leonard Fournette looks like a great play. But in terms of in terms of touches, in games where Leonard Fournette plays, it's a very weird ratio. It's almost like the games where Fournette gets injured and then goes out and then Yeldon replaces him are better because they've set up the game to be a little more run focused. In the last 2 seasons without Fournette, TJ Yeldon has started 5 games. His touches 11, 13, 11, 12, and 13. So his volume isn't what you would expect for a traditionally run-heavy team in a game without their starting running back and Yeldon being the guy. So, and this is a phenomenal matchup. The Chiefs' defense is awful against the run. They allow a lot of check downs and short passes to the running back, an area where TJ Yeldon should excel. Is he somebody that we need to play, or do you have I guess concerns about his potential workload, his potential volume, and maybe letting people down? I remember a few weeks ago when it was the Vikings and the Bills, and everyone was all in Latavius Murray, and pencil him in. He's getting the volume. He's getting it, and it was a blowout, and it was over before you knew it, and he was worthless. Now I don't think Yeldon will be worthless, but I feel like we could see great opportunity, getting the volume, gonna be the guy. A lot of people use him, and he kind of he's okay. Like he's just whatever. You know what I mean?
yeah, I do. For me, you know what? I'm not really thinking too much with this. I'm not gonna fade him for like. I mean, we talk about other backs in that range who are like Hyde and Lynch.
Yeah.
Would I rather play those guys? Maybe. I think it's an even call. Like I am not scared of the touch count you mentioned. I'm not.
Okay.
Because Kansas City's defense is like the Lions' run defense, right?
Yeah.
It can a couple plays. Literally, Yeldon could have 2 or 3 plays that make his fantasy day.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think we both agree that they're going to be in positions to score. What 4 offensive touchdowns this week? Is that out of the?
Yeah, so he could have 7 carries for 30 yards and 5 catches for 15 yards, but find the end zone twice, and all of a sudden he's having a really good day. And he's obviously a guy that they use around the goal line. They run the ball. They throw to him out of the backfield. He got a passing touchdown in the red zone last week. So, it's very much in the cards that he could have, a good day and find the end zone a couple times and be absolutely worth kind of what his salary range is. So I don't fault anyone for playing him, but definitely understand the risk, I guess, associated with playing him.
Well, right, and I think the point we just made is basically if you put me in a helmet, that I could get these touches and probably produce something for you in fantasy if I was playing against Kansas City. So
yeah, you and Mike Davis.
Yeah, exactly. Me and Mike Davis would be a great play this week against Kansas City. So that's really the point for me is I'm not looking at Yeldon and his touch with Fournette out. I'm looking at who they're going against and whatever. At 5,600, he's perfectly fine with me.
All right, let's talk wideouts because this is where I think I'm spending a lot of my money this week. Obviously, we hit on it a little bit earlier, but Steelers, Falcons, I think the Bengals, I think the Vikings. Like, I want pass catchers in those offenses. So let's talk about the high end. And obviously, I love Julio Jones this week. I think a lot of people are going to be on Calvin Ridley. And I think people are going to see, I can save money and, not have to spend so much and still get that kind of upside. And I think Julio Jones is the play this week. I think he gets a lot of volume. I think maybe he even finds the end zone. And if I'm spending up at wide receiver, I think that's where I start at 8,500.
Okay, I mean, for me, just because. Let's stick with that game, and if I had to pick him or like Antonio Brown, I'd probably go Brown just because the secondary problems and the injuries in Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
So Alford's out, Neal's out. So I'm probably going Brown. Last week if you watched some of that game with Cincinnati, they tried to double Julio.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And that opened up everything for Calvin Ridley.
right, and
So,
so
go
right.
ahead.
No, go. Yes. So
So
I mean,
I have a little proposition for you, and I can kind of see where you're thinking. Obviously, you're Antonio Brown. I'm a little Julio Jones. How about we're both, we were going to talk some gambling here in a little bit. Let's have a little on-show wager just to keep things interesting. You take Antonio Brown, and you take Calvin Ridley. I'll take Julio Jones, and I'll take Juju Smith-Schuster, and we'll see who has more fantasy points.
Okay, what do we is this pride and honor or what?
We can go pride and honor. We can do a little avatar bet on Twitter. We can, whatever tickles your fancy.
Okay. Well, pride and honor for sure, and then I'll come up with something as we're talking.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good.
Maybe like a Venmo for alcohol or something.
Yeah. Buy each other a 30-pack or some pizza or something and call it a day.
Yeah.
I like it. Okay, hit me with another receiver that maybe up at the upper echelon that you're looking at.
So upper echelon, I would say I keep doing this, probably foolishly, but Beckham. I keep
it's
singing.
One of these weeks, he's gonna go for 180 yards, 2 or 3 touchdowns. And it'll be the week that we finally decide, nope, we're writing him off. But I'm with you. This is a great matchup, and I know he's expensive, and I know Carolina isn't the greatest defense to go against, but I think the opportunity is absolutely there.
Yeah, and so yeah, I'm definitely on Beckham. If Devontae Adams plays, I'll be fine with him too. I'm not worried. I mean, the Lions. I'm not worried about them. So,
yeah.
I'm fine with those two guys.
I love Adam Thielen this week. I think the Eagles secondary is very bad. I think Mariota lit him up last week. I think Minnesota showed they kind of refound their form obviously against the Rams. I like the Vikings. I wouldn't mind a Kirk Cousins Adam Thielen stack. Thielen's just been so dang consistent, so dang reliable. He had 19 points in week 1, but since then 34, 27, and 30. He's a monster. Cousins clearly likes him, and has that ability to be the best guy this week at a little bit of a reduced price.
Forget the best guy this week. I mean, what happened? I mean, this guy's turned into arguably a top 3-4 wideout.
Mm-hmm.
I mean like. So
he's not. I wouldn't quite put him with Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, Odell, but he is like right there. He's in that Keenan Allen, AJ Green, whoever you want to throw in their tier. He has been incredible, and it's been all of last season. It's been this season. It's not like it's a fluky thing that we were just seeing for a couple weeks.
No, he's out. He's been outstanding. So
yeah. Okay, so if we're not going at the top. Let's go a little lower. What options intrigue you at wide receiver?
Well, this is my wheelhouse because this is where I look first, and I just want to point out we talked about our boy Tyler Boyd last week, and so that was another thing from that Atlanta game. If you watch that towards the end, they were basically like tag teaming AJ Green, and then they put Marcus Trufant one-on-one with Tyler Boyd in the middle of the field, and he ate him up. Yep. I mean, it was just like it was an automatic 8-10 yard catch every time. So he's the real deal. This is a breakout year for him. So whatever you can do to get Tyler Boyd in your lineups. I mean, I think even this week at 5,700, I think you can still argue he's undervalued. So Tyler Boyd, great play. I think Amari Cooper. What the hell do you do with this guy? One week it's the one catch for 10 yards, the next week it's 8 for 120 and a touchdown. I'm gonna treat him. I I've done this since he's came in the league, which may be foolish, but I kind of treat him like he's a upper echelon top 12, 13 wideout just because of his talent level. So I'm going to treat him that way this week. I think he's a good play for $5,600 against a very suspect Charger secondary.
Yeah, if you like Derek Carr, I think it's a good week to like Amari Cooper. As somebody who lives in Northern California, knows a lot of Raider fans. He is very up and down. I think of him as kind of a prime Deshaun Jackson, where maybe not in terms of the routes he's running, but like he has the weeks where he could go 180 yards, 2 touchdowns, and be incredible. But then he's also going to have the 2 for 15 and do absolutely nothing in your lineup. So he's very, upside, boom bust. So you have to be ready to kind of deal with that if things don't go well. But I think there's very much in the cards for him. And then quickly on Tyler Boyd, I'm like, he's had 3 straight 20-point plus games. He had 15 targets against the Falcons, and his price, he was $3,100 in week 1. Now he's all the way up to $5,700. That is a meteoric rise after 1 month of the season.
Right. I honestly, it's going to go up. I think still. Yeah. I think he's one of those guys who's like a number. I'm trying to think of an example, but he's like one of those number 2 receivers who's going to kind of evolve this year into like a borderline 1A option.
I'm looking at like pricing right now, like Robert Woods, Golden Tate, Jarvis Landry. They're all kind of in that mid to upper 6,000s. I feel like that's kind of where he's going to settle by the end of the season.
I agree. And kind of sticking in, talking about Mark Cooper and sticking kind of in that game.
Mm-hmm.
I think outside of Tyler Boyd, I think maybe the most mispriced player, maybe on DK is still Mike Williams for the Chargers.
Yeah.
I just think he's low 400s. He's kind of been up and down week to week. He's had a big game, then nothing. Big game, nothing. But still, it's very clear if San Diego can do one thing, they can score points. Rivers is looking towards him on deep balls every week.
Yeah.
So they have another plus matchup with the Raiders this week. So I 4,200. When I'm looking at receivers, he jumps out big time to me, and I think this is a guy who should be more maybe in the $5,500 range possibly.
Yeah, no, I like that call quite a bit. Now let me ask you, like I like stacking, like I'll take like Derek Carr and hit a weapon and then put a receiver from the other team. So for example, you could do, Carr and Amari Cooper and Mike Williams, and it's super affordable for all those guys, and you can still do a lot. Now, do you feel comfortable playing Mike Williams and Amari Cooper, who are both guys that have a lot of upside but can also kind of underwhelm? Or do you maybe go Mike Williams with Jordy Nelson and then maybe Keenan Allen with Amari Cooper and kind of see if that makes you feel a little more comfortable about where the floor of your team would be?
Well, Kyle, I really feel comfortable with everything you just said, to be honest. I mean, seriously, this is a great example of what we've been talking about with DK, like lineups and the points. This could be a game this week where if you go all in on this game,
mm-hmm.
you could really pan out well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Jordy could do well. Jordy's not expensive. What is he, $4,200?
Yeah, 45.
So, okay, 45. So, I mean, like these guys are. It's another thing where it's a very affordable game to kind of manipulate. So, I'm comfortable with all of it, really. There's enough to go around in this type of matchup where Jordy can pan out, Amari can pan out, Mike Williams can pan out because their prices are right? Yeah. I mean, like it's not like you're trying to get. It's not like Atlanta and Pittsburgh where you can only kind of go maybe 1 or 2 of those guys before you have to kind of start cutting other places.
Yeah. When you look at setting lineups and you look at this game's got a high over under, I want to try and get as many pieces. What's kind of your max in terms of number of players you'll have from one team, for example? So would you be comfortable playing Derek Carr and Cooper and Marshawn Lynch and, we're going to talk tight ends here a little bit, Jared Cook? Like, is 4 or 5 players from the same team too many, or are you comfortable in games where you see the over-under is going to be 50 points, you know that there's potential for them to go off? Like, do you think that you're okay playing that many players?
Well, I mean, look, I think the first rule of, if you're really trying to stack something, if you're really like focused on that, I think the first thing is you have to get the quarterback running back combination in, right? Because you're trying to hoard every single touchdown scored by the offense. So if you consider that, okay, this offense is going to score 4 to 5 touchdowns, I have to make sure I get the running back and the quarterback in my lineup. So there's that. And then I'm okay with probably, let's say, 2 other pass catchers, just because. Okay. So let's talk.
Like
so
four is kind of.
To answer your question, maybe 4.
Yeah. I think 3 is kind of like my sweet spot. I'm good with 4 when I know a quarterback, a running back, and 2 pass catchers. Like, that's it. I'm not going 3 pass catchers. Like, I wouldn't do Cooper and Nelson and Cook. Like, I feel like that's a little too aggressive. Any other receivers you want to throw out quickly before we move on to tight end?
Well, I will say, we talked about this a little bit already, but just to point out, I think because of the Cleveland offense, Rashawn Higgins at 3,500 is a nice low-level guy where the upside's there now with Baker Mayfield to get some value at 3,500. And then Doug Baldwin, if he plays, again, this is a guy who's been like a top 10 receiver the last couple of years, a borderline top 10. If he plays, the Rams are going to be scoring a lot, a couple corners out.
Yep. Peters was banged up, Talib was out, and we saw what happened with the Vikings. This could easily be a big game for Doug Baldwin. And at 5,000, like, that's obviously he's not somebody you want to play everywhere, but it's good to have exposure to him. And Mohamed Sanu, who you have on your list, I think is a great name because, you might want a little exposure to Falcons Steelers, but, he's a way to get some price without going too crazy and get a piece of it. And, like, honestly, if he's the guy that has the 1 or 2 touchdown games to Calvin Ridley, I would not be shocked one bit. So I like that. I like that call quite a bit as well.
Not one bit, and that's why I kind of like talking about stacking like Atlanta. Hey, I'm going to, instead of stacking, saving some money, I'll stack Julio and Sanu. I like that better.
Yep. All right, let's talk tight ends. Where are you looking? Is there somebody at the top that is interesting to you, or are you going right to the value guys at the position?
Well, I've been going to value guys, and it's sucked. I've been like I'm like a week late or a week early on every kind of like sneaky play I have. So this week I'm trying to maybe do it at receiver, and so I like Zach Ertz this week at 65. That was my guy that I was like, all right, if I'm going all in on someone at tight end, it's going to be Zach Ertz. He's not that expensive. He's 6,500, and you kind of know that there's that guaranteed floor there with Wentz. Wentz went right back to him last week.
Yeah.
He had a nice big game. So I still think he has that. He has a great floor with the upside. 6,500. That's like an average wide receiver price. Mm-hmm. Ertz is my guy at the top for sure.
Yeah, and with some of the values we've talked about, I could see him being easily, kind of fit into your offense. I like Jared Cook a lot at 4,800. We've talked about our love for Derek Carr and expectations with that team. If I'm spending up at tight end, he's probably the guy that I'm looking at. If I want to look a little lower and take a shot on some of those value plays, Ricky Seals-Jones against the Niners and Nick Vannett against the Rams. The Rams, obviously a funnel defense. We saw a week ago that they can be thrown on. And if Russell Wilson and Doug Baldwin have a decent game, I think Nick Vannett will get work, especially with Will Dissly out now. I think at 2,500, if you don't really want to spend at tight end, there's too many good options at other places. I think he's a guy that will get you by and be maybe even a touchdown, and then all of a sudden you're loving life.
Yeah. Can you remind me, who is Nick Vannett? I don't know who he is. Who's that?
He went to the Ohio State University.
Does he play football?
Yeah. OH.
All right.
2,500. I love him.
Great.
Any value plays you like this week?
I was just kind of looking. I would say if you want to maybe try to take advantage of the Cincinnati Tyler Everett being out, maybe Tyler Croft would be.
I would go with Uzomah if I'm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yes. So if you want, that could be something to take advantage of there. And is there? I mean, is there a week where I should anticipate the Jonnu Smith explosion?
As a Titans fan, I'm very disappointed by the Jonnu Smith experience as of late. I was very optimistic. I thought he would step right in. He's already known this offense. Like, obviously, it's a new offense, so maybe he needs to adjust. But the offense finally got rolling last week, and he still did very little. I hope he becomes something. But as of right now, until I see consistent volume and stuff from him, there's no chance I'm touching him with a 10-foot pole. The one thing I will say is if you want to get a little sneaky, Hayden Hurst might play this week for Baltimore, and Cleveland is awful against the tight end. So if you want to get a little sneaky and throw the rookie out there, I don't hate that either.
It's a very cute play of you. I like.
Yeah. It'll probably end up horribly, but like you said, all these cheap tight ends have been awful. So maybe we'll just go Ertz and Cook and call it a day. Let's talk defense. Obviously, the Titans at 4,000 are a home run. Anytime you can start anyone against Josh Allen, but they're the most expensive defense, and it's not always easy to squeeze that in. Sometimes you're looking to save. Sometimes you're looking to be a little different. If you're looking to save, if you're looking to be different, where are you looking?
Well, I'm gonna go Arizona. I think again they haven't been great this year, but again they're going against the 49ers. They're going against Beathard, CJ Beathard, the 49ers. So 2,900 if I have to look in that range. Well, the 49ers, sure, why not? I mean, it's a decent play there, and I'll take my chances at that price against the Niners.
Yeah, no, the Cardinals are an interesting pick. The one I'm gonna throw one out there, and it's probably gonna be really stupid, and it's probably not gonna work very well. But if there's a week to play the Jaguars and GPPs, and this is the week. I know they're playing. It's like getting in front of a moving train. It's probably not gonna end well, but Pat Mahomes showed a little bit of a step back last week. This is gonna be the best defense he's faced all season. I think there is going to be a little regression. I still think he's incredible. I still think he's going to probably, be the reason the Chiefs are among the best teams in the AFC. But at 2,800, this is the best opportunity you have to take the Jags. They are on the road, which is never. I'm not always a huge fan of playing teams on the road, but I think it's definitely an interesting spot. I also don't hate Cincinnati. They're at home. They're facing Ryan Tannehill. They're facing a Dolphins offense that we saw come back to earth very much last week. Against, the Patriots defense still isn't very good. So I think there's an opportunity there for the Bengals to get some turnovers. Maybe they get a pick six or a fumble or something, and limit the damage. And I think at 2,700, they're a great play.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about it a little bit more. I'm not so keen on Cincinnati, but yeah, if you're looking at that range, perfectly reasonable. I get it. So yeah, and I'm wanting to cut that range anyway at that position, so yeah. I'm okay there.
So hit me with your lineup as we look to get out of here.
Alrighty. So I'm cutting a little bit at running back. I kind of have a more balanced lineup, I would say, this week.
Okay.
Going Derek Carr at quarterback.
Yep. Love it.
My running backs are Carlos Hyde and TJ Yeldon. Receivers, Tyreek Hill, Calvin Ridley, Mike Williams. Tight end, Zach Ertz. My flex is Juju, and my defense is the Cardinals.
I love it. That's a very solid lineup. Now I will say you're comfortable taking Tyreek Hill against that Jacksonville defense after and I know after all the smack talk Jalen Ramsey threw out today, maybe I'm a little more optimistic and Tyreek's gonna be like, oh, I'll show you those taillights. But you're comfortable at almost 7,000 putting him out there in your lineups.
Kyle, what makes the best players is that in tough matchups, they're the best players.
Yep.
So look, who knows what's going to happen, but no, I look at Tyreek Hill and I just see Tyreek Hill.
Yep.
He can bust loose on anyone. So.
Yep. I like it. Here's my lineup for the week. It's very on brand for us because we talked about our two favorite options. So I am taking not Derek Carr, but Bobby Blake Bortles. I am going David Johnson and Christian McCaffrey as my running backs. I have Amari Cooper, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Adam Thielen as my wideouts. I put Nick Vannett as my cheap tight end. I have Aaron Jones in the flex, and I have those Cincinnati Bengals as my defense.
All right, I love it. I'm still not sure who Nick Vannett is, but I trust him. I believe he's in the NFL. I trust you.
My one question to you, and I want to see where you come down on this, and I think I might know where you're leaning, but the other option instead of Christian McCaffrey and Amari Cooper is I could go Alex Collins, which I told you I like him, but it's Alex Collins. But it allows me to put Julio Jones in my lineup.
No,
do I go?
No.
Stay with McCaffrey and Amari Cooper?
No. No. Honestly, no. And the reason being is McCaffrey, I think out of any player in out of any player in fantasy, does he have, you tell me, does he have the safest, highest floor of anybody week to week?
I feel like he is super safe when he's healthy, when he plays. So for me, he was somebody that in season long, I was not comfortable paying what he would cost just because I don't know that he could do what he's doing for 16 games. Now in DFS, that's a completely different story because you need 1 week out of him. Do I think he can do that? Absolutely think he can do that. So I'm with you in terms of among the guys that I know is going to get work, is going to get volume, it's going to be super safe. I think he's definitely a guy. And, we're talking about having to hit a certain plateau to cash. He is definitely a guy that I put him out there. I feel like I'm going to get 20 to 30 points and still have that little bit more upside.
Absolutely, and that's why I'm McCaffrey Coop for me, buddy.
All right, I love it. All right, Bobby, this was a lot of fun. Obviously, make sure you're following the both of us on Twitter. Make sure you're heading to fakepigskin.com each and every day. There's so much good stuff. Bobby's college football DFS has been a lot of fun to read and helping me build my bankroll over on DK, so I appreciate you for that, Bobby. As well as a big announcement for those that have stayed through. We are now on Spotify, Bobby. You can find The Angle of Pursuit on Spotify. So if you have a friend that's like, I don't listen to iTunes, I don't have an iPhone. If you go, I usually watch on YouTube, but sometimes I'm in the car and I want to get the audio only version. We are now on Spotify, so make sure you follow us there. Make sure you are following Bobby and I on Twitter. And good luck with your DraftKings this weekend, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Good luck, guys.